Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll get started here in just about 1 minute. It's a big day. We're transitioning from winter robe to summer robe. It's almost 80 degrees here. The lilacs are blooming. Things are good. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And then we'll get rolling. A lot of weakness in the broader market again. A little bit of strength in some crypto stocks, but nothing notable. And the FOMC on Wednesday. Also appreciate all you people clicking the like buttons and sharing things on Twitter. It certainly helps. Japan. Haven't seen Japan in a while. Hey, Jonathan. All right, it's 2 p.m. Let's get rid of my face before we start talking about charts this time. So, this is the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq has confirmed a daily bear flag, and the bears are in complete control. There is definitely a downtrending support line that I'm keeping an eye on, but we know that at this point, with it currently being Monday, the FOMC is on Wednesday. And we know that the bears have complete control. And even if we see a green day tomorrow in the markets, it's not going to be convincing enough. We have to see a bullish reaction to the FOMC if anything's going to change. And if things are not going to change, then we're going to be looking for bears to continue to keep their control. And again, the possibility of this falling wedge for Bitcoin breaking bear is on the table, which we'll look at in just a moment. But the simple statement for me is as long as the broader stock market keeps forming lower highs on every single bounce attempt on the daily time frame, I'm bearish. And I've been trading only bearish today, and it's going well as far as the stock market world. So looking at the Nasdaq here, we're down testing the low of the day. It's a double bottom at the low of the day, but this is what the 15-minute chart looks like. And if we compare it to Bitcoin, it's very, very, very similar. Bitcoin is doing the same thing as QQQ right now since the bell rang. Okay, so now let's look at the 12-hour. We've been watching this falling wedge at this point. I think we're on day 5 now, and it's done nothing but respect support and resistance. So it's been a great visual guide. And again, the probability is higher for me that it can break bear just because we are waiting on this news event, this fundamental event, I should say. Can definitely lead to a bear break. But it's getting nice and tight, and we know that break is imminent. And let's see, we got FOMC in 48 hours, which means pretty much just 4 more 12-hour candles, so we can easily stay within this pattern until the FOMC reaction. So a new 12-hour lower high is now set at 39.2 thousand. Anything above 37.4 thousand is a higher low, but just a continued falling wedge potential setup here. Looks like the Nasdaq is trying to get a little bounce off this double bottom. And so viewing Bitcoin, same thing, trying to get a little 15-minute bounce going. But for me, it's the bigger picture time frames. I have not zoomed in more than the 4-hour time frame much at all over the last week. The dominance chart is still strong, which is showing us that the altcoins are dropping more than Bitcoin on this pullback. And the weekly now is getting nice and tight. We've been watching this tightening weekly range for almost a year at this point, and anything under 44.09 will just be another lower high. A possible scenario for this pattern to continue tightening would be if the falling wedge on Bitcoin breaks bull and altcoins break bull more significantly, then the dominance chart could set another lower high to continue tightening. And of course, if the falling wedge breaks bear and altcoins get real ugly, then we're going to be looking to test resistance on this dominance chart. But those are the 2 scenarios of what we're looking for in the short term. Thanks, M. Ward. I'll pass that along to Jason. All right. So Ethereum is in a 12-hour falling wedge as well. Anything under 29.80 is just a 12-hour lower high. Ethereum is weaker than Bitcoin recently, as shown by the ETH-BTC chart. It's just a slow grind down. The weekly time frame is still looking for a higher low on ETH-BTC, but there's no indication that it is shaping up. We would need to see the falling wedges break bull and the 12-hour lower highs break bull on this ETH BTC chart, if a weekly high or low is going to be shaping up. So I'm keeping an eye on something like this. Essentially, we can draw a falling wedge on both pairings for Ethereum, US dollar, and BTC. So if they were to both break bull, that tells us Ethereum is the better bull to be in over Bitcoin. But again, the premise there is that we've got to break bull from these falling wedges. At this point in time, I would say, again, it's really just a complete guess. It's really a 50-50 coin flip for me because of the FOMC reaction. I guess I would give a 55% chance for a bull break just because falling wedges are bullish reversal patterns in general. But again, it's not high conviction. It's the kind of thing where I would want to miss, aggressive bulls are going to look to try and play the break of this falling wedge. I personally would be okay missing an initial bull move. And if we get enough follow through in the broader market and if confidence starts to return, then I would be looking for an entry off of recent lows. So that's how I'm going to be approaching it. And again, just not taking an aggressive mindset. But there are definitely aggressive bulls that are going to try and position into the FOMC. It would be the kind of thing where if we do not break 37.4, then we'd be using that level as a potential stop with some wiggle room, of course, keeping in mind that the falling wedges, by definition, bear break with a lack of follow through. All right, so on to some altcoins. It's hard for me to remember, we last live streamed Friday. It's hard for me to remember the things I say in the public live streams and the things I say in weekend videos that I make for ChartGuys members with regards to Ape and GMT. So I definitely had a big bear lean over the weekend. I think I had a bear lean on Friday, but I don't want to misrepresent myself and say that I had that bear lean because I'm not exactly sure where we were on Friday and what I was looking at. But anybody that watched, if you could let me know if I was bearish on Friday or not, that would be helpful. Anyways, why I shifted to bearish over the weekend, a number of reasons. Number one, the backdrop. Again, we're in a bear market environment right now. More so, for me, it's more prevalent in stocks. Definitely feeling it in crypto as well. And yes, these names have been very bullish, but we know that when spotlights fade, that bears take over. And so just knowing that these names have had their run, Ape and GMT have had a very good run in the face of a bear market, and we're watching that spotlight starting to fade. You've got the Ape sell the news type situation. So there was a fundamental reason to be having a bear lean as well. And it's played out very, very well for the bears. Essentially, the way that it played out is we got the hourly oversold bounce was great for bulls. And again, that's a back burner. First hourly oversold conditions, that hourly RSI got down to about 31 or so. And first hourly oversold conditions led to a 40% bounce. So again, that's your standard back burner. And I will post a link to the free ebook. We've got the video about back burners as well. But that's our ebook. And again, keeping in mind, it works to the downside and it also works to the upside as well for bears. So let's just say Bitcoin sees a bullish reaction to the FOMC. We would be looking for first 4-hour oversold conditions for bears to be keeping an eye out for an entry. And look back here, 4-hour RSI has been range bound, unable to get over 70. So if we were to see a bull break, I would zoom out and I would be keeping an eye out. How do we respond? Even if I'm not going to go aggressive bearish on 4-hour overbought conditions, how do bulls respond to that? Do bulls shake it off and see RSI on the 4-hour get up to 75? That would be notable. But again, just keeping an eye out that while I love RSI for oversold bounces, it can definitely be useful as one little piece of the puzzle for establishing a trade game plan for bears as well. But in this instance for Ape, it was a nice hourly oversold bounce, but what was the most likely scenario from there? If we look at the 12-hour time frame, we had a massive pullback. So for me, heading into the weekend, I was scouting a 12-hour lower high to be the most likely result of this bounce. Okay, so now I've got the bigger picture. This goes back to a tweet that I made earlier today. Determine the most likely scenario on a longer-term time frame, and then zoom in and look for clues that are either confirming your most likely scenario or negating it. And so for me, I then zoom in knowing that I'm looking for a 12-hour lower high. I see this hourly retracement. And I say, okay, well, that's enough of an hourly pullback that the next time we bounce, we can scout an hourly lower high to be looking for a bearish entry there. I'm just trying to determine when these dates were. So this happened the 30th, which was on Saturday, I believe. So yeah. So Saturday, the trade was a top fishing play, looking for an hourly lower high, because if we confirm the hourly downtrend, the 12-hour lower high is set. So again, just to summarize, zoomed out, most likely scenario for me due to the size of the pullback is a 12-hour lower high. I then zoom in to try and find a good risk reward setup to show me that that 12-hour lower high is shaping up. And that's what we got with this hourly downtrend. And then from there, the bears followed through significantly. And now at this point, we have pulled back from that 12-hour lower high, something like 40% plus. This is actually the first time, this past weekend is the first time I've had bear FOMO, just because Coinbase, there's no shorting, which this was the kind of setup like, oh, I'm real confident looking bearish in these names, but not going to be able to short them on Coinbase. So what now for Ape? Hourly oversold doesn't mean anything to us. We've seen it 5 times now since first hourly oversold conditions. And again, it's the first that's important to us. And as soon as you use up that first back burner, the second time is not nearly the same, doesn't mean nearly as much. So now we're looking for a 4-hour oversold bounce. So 4-hour RSI is approaching oversold. We're not there yet. It's currently at 33. Again, if I'm playing bounces, I want things as crushed as possible. We've got that YouTube video on our channel, which is called How I Trade Crypto Oversold Bounces. Something like that. How I Trade Crypto Breakdowns. So what I want to see is Ape with 4-hour oversold. I want hourly RSI to be in the low 20s. I want the 15-minute RSI to be in the teens. I want the 5-minute RSI to be in the teens. That's my ideal scenario if I'm going to start scaling in for a 4-hour oversold bounce. The daily perspective is, actually at this point we're on the weekly, aren't we? So weekly consolidation is underway. So we're looking for a weekly high or low, anything above 1051, and we need to see 4-hour oversold conditions lead to a significant bounce. But patiently waiting for 4-hour oversold from here, as the bears are still in absolute control, and in the short term, we've got a 15-minute downtrend as our guide. So that's a potential trade that is shaping up. We just want to ensure that the BTC pairing is bouncing with the US dollar pairing as that bounce is attempting to take place, because they are doing the exact same thing. Their RSI levels are very similar, so need to see them both bouncing in the same direction. So there is, for the most aggressive bulls, there is an oversold bounce potentially shaping up. For patient bears, they're just waiting for a 4-hour lower high. They're saying, great, you have an oversold bounce. Go 15% for all I care. I'll be patiently waiting for a 4-hour lower high to be looking for an entry. And even more patient bears are going to be scouting the next daily lower high because there's tons of space for it to form. As far as I'm concerned, the Ape top is in for the foreseeable future. Because we need, after having the fundamental event now out of the way, we need 100% move at this point to head to higher highs. And I think that our top is set. And so we're going to trade. We will eventually see a bounce on the daily, and then the bounce retracement size will help us dictate, are we going to form an equilibrium, or is it a bear flag bounce that sees another leg down? But the spotlight is gone. We can say that much. Spotlight was there, lead bull, blue sky breakout, significant gains for bulls, spotlight faded. All right, same thing for GMT. So GMT, we were watching this 4-hour rising wedge. I believe this was from Friday, which has now broken bearish convincingly. We broke bear, we traded sideways, and then we broke bear again. So at this point, the daily uptrend is at risk of being lost. We're looking at key support of 296, which is still holding. And if 296 holds, we're then scouting a head and shoulders, where we will be looking for a daily lower high. Just like the hourly time frame on Ape, where we pulled back enough to scout the hourly lower high top fish to look for the 12-hour lower high, this pullback on the daily for GMT is enough to scout a daily lower high to be the result of the next bounce. An aggressive bear is scouting the next bounce on GMT for a bearish swing entry for a daily lower high. First things first, the bulls would have to confirm a 4-hour trend change for a daily bounce to get underway. Clear 4-hour lower highs keep forming here. But if that happens, we scout the daily lower high. Checking in on the BTC pairing, it's doing the same thing. 4-hour rising wedge broke bear. Daily is still an uptrend. And the reason why I've been keeping an eye out for bearish entries, again, is the weekly chart has made an insane run. And there's a lot of space for consolidation to cool off when the spotlight is lost. And the spotlight is certainly fading on GMT as well. So more space to hold a daily high or low on the BTC pairing, but same thing, next bounce on the daily, we will be scouting a daily lower high on GMT, both pairings. So the bears taking over these names. Ape, certainly a more significant drop than GMT, but keeping an eye out to see if GMT is going to start weekly consolidation as well. That bounce on QQQ was very short-lived. Gave it all back. Bitcoin doing the same. So who else? Mana has been extremely weak. So poor Mana, Metaverse name here, getting all of its attention stolen by Ape and other names and just getting crushed. This is our lead bear as the BTC pairing is showing us. BTC pairing falling apart here and heading to some of the lowest levels since the breakout. The daily RSI is crushed, but it cooled off a little bit. So again, we're in a market environment where the bears have it easy at this point in time. And so when this dump started, or I should say when the dump found a bottom and then the bounce started, the simple statement was, I'm looking for a 12-hour lower high to be the result of this bounce. Why is that a simple statement? Because it's simple. And because of, look how much space we have. We know a 12-hour lower high is the most likely scenario. I then zoom in and look for the information that tells me that that most likely scenario is taking shape. And for me, I was looking at a 30-minute rising wedge type pattern. It broke bear, 12-hour lower high is set. And now the bulls would have to hold the 133 low and break 158 if anything's going to change. Otherwise, bears keep their complete control. And I'm grateful for Mana and Sand to really show us lead bull spotlight fading to a lead bear spotlight over the last 6 months or however long it's been. 8 months? Man, time is flying. 7 months? So that was useful for me when looking for a top on Ape and GMT. Just having that recent memory, that recent experience. Yeah, it's a lead bull. It's blowing everybody out of the water, but that's going to stop. We know it will stop eventually. It's just trying to find when it is going to stop. And again, having that fundamental event for Ape makes the timing a little bit more manageable in terms of increasing probabilities in favor for the bears. So Mana, will Mana bounce? Absolutely. We're going to see both pairings bounce at some point in the near-term future, and we're going to cool off some RSI levels. But again, we're just going to be scouting a daily lower high. Eventually, we will just be scouting a weekly lower high. It's going to take a while for bulls here to regain trends in their favor now that we are in downtrends on so many time frames. We can bounce 40% and just be looking for a weekly lower high. So Mana and Sand definitely lead bears until they give us a reason not to be lead bears. And again, I look at Sand here, and we haven't even gotten a bounce going in any meaningful way. Oh, that's the BTC pairing. Sand, USDT. Same thing though, inside bars, we can see a bull break and go 20% higher, and bears will eagerly be awaiting for a daily lower high short. So bears have control until bulls punch them in the mouth and make them wrong. And it's, again, I just go back to the stock market where we're getting the same easy, it's getting easier and easier for bears, where it's just, okay, each morning we scout an hourly lower high. Once the hourly lower high is shaping up, we scout 15-minute lower highs on the way down. And just making those bear entries on those 15-minute lower highs has been fairly easy over the last few days. There will come a point in time where that ease stops, we see a solid bounce, bears get punched in the mouth, and we then need follow through from bulls. But until that punch in the mouth happens, bears are going to take these trades as often as they can. Luna. So Luna is another great example. Along with Mana and Sand, Luna helped me significantly identify a lead spotlight bull shifting. So we're looking now at the verge of confirming a weekly downtrend. I shouldn't say on the verge. We still have another 6, 7, or 8% to drop or so. But we have the potential of shaping up a weekly downtrend on Luna. And we know it was a lead bull for a very long time, and that is shifting a bit. The BTC pairing is still notably stronger than the US dollar pairing for me. So it will be crucial that the BTC pairing breaks this weekly support if the US dollar pairing is going to get bear follow through. So I am keeping a close eye on that. If we zoom into the daily, let's go to the 2-day time frame. We could equilibrium here, where we would have a high, low, lower high, and if we hold this weekly support, it's possible Luna tightens up a bit here. If that is the case, and we do get a 2-day equilibrium on Luna BTC, that's going to be a very key chart with how that breaks, because it's either going to be a loss of the weekly uptrend or we maintain the weekly uptrend. And looking at the 2-day time frame for the USD pairing, again, we're much closer to a bear break on the US dollar pairing. And if we do break bear, weekly downtrend confirmed, we zoom out, we watch the monthly. But at that point, if the bear break takes place, we're in a weekly, daily, 4-hour, hourly downtrend, which again is a complete shift from lead bull to weak. So I know people are looking bullish. You know I love bounces. Love oversold bounces. I am not looking for oversold bounces in this market environment. Why? Because number one, bulls are not proving anything to me. And number two, and more importantly, for my bounce style, we are not in historical extremes. Look at the Nasdaq. Oh my God, it's so weak. It keeps dropping every day. The daily RSI is not oversold. We were more oversold last week. We were more oversold 3 weeks ago. We were more oversold 5 weeks ago. We're nowhere near extremes. The weekly is not oversold. The 4-hour is not oversold. The hourly is not oversold. If we are not at historical RSI extremes, I'm going to keep playing the trend. The only time I will go counter trend for these bounces are when we are at historical oversold levels. So Bitcoin, are we at historical extremes? No, we're not even close. Daily is not close, 4-hour not close, 12-hour not close. So again, that's one reason why it's been easier for me to maintain a bearish view of things for the last week or two, because we're not at extremes. And every single bounce just sets a lower high and drops to lower lows. So that is my mindset. And my mindset also goes back to, again, I may miss a solid bounce. But if momentum is truly going to change in any meaningful way, there will be plenty of opportunity to find an entry following that initial bounce. We're not just, unless there's some kind of news, the King of England is now all in Bitcoin, unless we see some kind of news catalyst, it's not just going to run away without us. Because we know that even on a big bounce, we will just be scouting weekly lower highs in a lot of places. So long story short, in the short term, it's all about the FOMC reaction on Wednesday. If we get a bullish reaction in markets to the FOMC, it has to last for days. We have to confirm daily trend changes to believe that it can have follow through. So backs are against the wall for bulls a bit. And if we were to drop down on Bitcoin and break this falling wedge bearish, we've got 37,000 as a support range, 34s, and then 33. And again, we have a bullish correlation against QQQ. And it's keeping up. Over the last few weeks, we are stronger than the Nasdaq, which means we will likely bounce more significantly if the Nasdaq bounces. But if the Nasdaq does not bounce, we know bulls aren't going anywhere. So I'm not giving up on the bulls, but I am definitely on team bear as long as the lower highs keep forming. Keeping it simple. All right, that's all I want to talk about at the moment. What do you all want to talk about? The dollar, that's a good one to check in on. Thanks for the reminder. The dollar is as bullish as it's been in a very, very long time. Daily bull flag is shaping up. Highest levels that we've seen in 20 years on DXY. Tons of space for a monthly higher low, tons of space for a weekly higher low, tons of space for a daily higher low. You get the idea. This is bearish for stocks and crypto and commodities, as long as DXY is this strong. And the daily EMA 12 is my guide. And I just say, again, I want to make technical analysis as simple as I possibly can. So I look at this chart and I don't overthink it. I say if this red line, if this daily EMA 12 is support, the bulls have complete control. I don't have to do any more analysis until this red line is lost. Once the red line is lost, I'll do some fresh analysis and see where we stand and see what the setup is. But I don't have to do anything if that line is support, because that instantly tells me bulls are in complete control. You're welcome, Renee. I honestly have absolutely no idea what I said on Hex, but I'm glad it's playing out. Daily high or low, watching to see if we set a lower high. 12 hours nice and clear. If we confirm a 30-minute downtrend, probabilities for our 12-hour lower high will increase significantly, and then we'll be watching for a 12-hour tightening range. Litecoin, I don't care about Litecoin USD, I care about Litecoin BTC because it's holding weekly support, but just barely. And I'm still keeping one eye on it and I'm paying attention and I'm saying, all right, if weekly lower highs do not break, nothing changes and the bears keep complete control. If the weekly lower highs break, it's going to get my attention in a big way. But we're seeing bulls play a little defense, but they're doing nothing on offense. So little double bottom on the weekly, keeping one eye on it, not making any moves based off of it. Just watching to see, can this weekly support hold and we get a weekly bounce going? Or is this just a temporary pause before another leg down? And essentially, if the Bitcoin falling wedge breaks bear, Litecoin BTC is very likely to break this support. FTM, seeing some headlines about it in terms of its big time drop. So FTM is a 12-hour lower high as well. So again, it's a potential 12-hour bear flag. The burden is on bulls to prove to us that it is not, which means we would have to hold 65 and break 80, we'll just call it 81, if we're going to see any kind of shift in momentum. How long have we been setting 12-hour lower highs? A couple weeks at this point. So keep it simple. That is our guide. Bears have absolute control as long as 12-hour lower highs continue. If we confirm a 12-hour trend change, we zoom out and we scout a daily lower high with EMA 12 resistance as a guide, as it has been resistance for almost a month at this point. FTM BTC is breaking down as well. It's at the lowest levels that we've seen in 8 months. So this is definitely a lead bear as long as that continues. $12-hour short-term guide, break it bull. We zoom out and scout a daily lower high, knowing that confirmed daily trend changes are needed for anything to change. That goes for the S&P 500. It goes for the Nasdaq. It goes for the biotech sector. It goes for Apple. It goes for the tech sector. It goes for Bitcoin. It goes for gold. It goes for so many assets right now in markets because so many are doing the same thing in this bearish environment. And as long as we are in daily downtrends, bears are extremely confident. You can't punch a bear in the mouth if you're in a daily downtrend. That is their safety blanket. That is their confidence keeper. What year trading did I first learn about market correlations? Very late. You are all so far ahead of me. Let's see. Way late. 7? Year 7? Yeah, probably. Watching alt BTC pairings really helped hone in on correlations, but probably year 6 or 7. So if you're on year 1, 2, 3, and you're paying attention to correlations and they are helping with your trading, man, you got a head start on me. VERU. Now we're not looking at stocks. Not at the moment. We will look at coin. Trying to get a daily bounce going from all-time lows. Hourly tightening range. So just an hourly equilibrium for these crypto names. Dump on Friday. Bounce to a lower high. Can we form a higher low? MARA, same deal. Can we form an hourly higher low and shape up a trend change? Agree, Philip. More aggressive bulls are looking for that ape 4-hour oversold bounce. We might not get it. We might bounce from RSI 31, just like the hourly, if these short-term RSI levels get extended enough. Yeah, I assumed there wasn't a King of England. I couldn't name him. Natural gas thoughts. Nah, we'll cover that in the market video later. With stock crypto correlation and institutional crypto buying power, has crypto lost its hedging powers? Absolutely. That's been long gone for a long time. I've never seen crypto act as a proper hedge against the broader market. I'm sure at some point it did for brief periods of time, but no, it is not a hedge at all. It's a risk-on asset. How long am I going to day trade for? I have no idea. Things are shifting the last couple of years in terms of motivation for my own personal day trading, dropping off a bit. Still very motivated to make these videos and to make educational content and to answer questions and to run the chat room for the chart guys. But my own personal trading, there are definitely periods where I lose motivation temporarily. Near BTC. Trying to set a weekly high or low. Nice equilibrium. This is a good BTC pairing to be keeping an eye on for the next month plus. If we set the weekly high or low, we can easily trade within this pattern for another month plus. That's a good one. Yep. It's more clear on the BTC pairing. I just condense it to the 2-week time frame on near USDT. If I don't have a position, I just want to see this get as tight as possible and then look to play the break when it eventually happens later on down the line. HBAR, BTC, bears in full control. It is one of the weakest BTC pairings on the daily time frame I've seen. Yes, we will see a daily oversold bounce, but we will just be looking for a daily lower high to be a result of that bounce. Any name that's hitting the lowest levels in 8 months are your lead bears. 1382 just broke, so here we are at the lowest level in over a year. There are not many crypto names, or at least none of the major ones that I look at that you can say we are at 1-year lows. So HBAR is definitely a lead bear. As long as we're in a daily and weekly downtrend, and as long as we're hitting lowest levels in many, many months. All right, just a few more here. Roon, USD. Clear daily downtrend. I like the monthly. Monthly is a real nice equilibrium. All-time high, low, lower high, higher, lower, double bottom, lower high potentially shaping up. If we drop down and break 583, monthly lower high is confirmed and we're heading back towards 301 double bottom. This is another great one. These are ones where write them down because there's such long-term time frames you might forget about them, but if Roon sets a monthly high or low, we may be looking for a break of this equilibrium in September. So find long drawn out equilibriums like this. When this pattern breaks, considering the lack of price history here, the volatility is going to be massive as a result. Ideally, it tightens up as much as it possibly can. And then that break, this will be a top watch towards the end of the year, without a doubt. Need to set a reminder in Slack chat. Remind me 1 month from now, every month, check on Roon. All right. Sentiment is definitely bearish, and trends are backing up sentiment at the moment. I would not, honestly, the question is, would I accumulate HBAR, what levels? I would not look to accumulate into weakness in this current market environment. It could work out, it could pay off, without a doubt. But again, I just have so many examples in my trading career where I didn't nail the bottom, where I did not come close to nailing the bottom. I waited for a momentum shift, so the wind was at my back, so I was in green positions trading with momentum on my entries and still saw major gains. So nailing bottoms is great, but the probability that you're going to nail a bottom is low. The possibility that we stay weak for another couple of months is absolutely on the table. And if you're in an altcoin and it is leading the way to the downside comparative to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin heads down to 30,000, that altcoin can drop easily another 20, 30, 40%. So I personally, this is definitely a day trader perspective, but with the amount of crypto coins that have come so significantly off their highs and do so for so prolonged a period before they find a bottom and shift momentum. Just look at mana. Anybody scaling into mana and building a long fundamental position is in a lot of pain if they've been doing it after that hype run. I would just so much rather make an entry 30% off a bottom to know that I'd be green right away and not have to be managing bags and doing that whole game, which can have a psychological and emotional negative impact on your entire life if you're not careful. I would so much rather miss an initial bounce and then get in when the momentum is in my favor. All right. Well, I appreciate you all tuning in. It's Monday. We'll be back Wednesday. I guess we'll be back now. Wednesday's FOMC day. I'm going to be live streaming for TheChartGuys for the FOMC. I might find time for a video, perhaps in the evening. If not, we'll do Thursday. Bears in complete control. Burden of proof on the bulls. Only the most aggressive bulls are looking for any entries right now. Ape being one of the plays that is definitely on the table for the 4-hour oversold bounce. I appreciate you all watching. Thanks again for the likes and shares and all that fun stuff. Make sure